Welcome to the regular meeting of the Beaumont City Council. Today is Tuesday, January the 11th, 2022. Happy New Year. Today's invocation will be given by Julius Wardley, Associate Pastor of First United Methodist Church. Thank you so very much. You may come forward. Everyone, please silence your cell phones. Please stand if you choose for the prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance.
May we pray together. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of new beginnings, Spirit of justice. We ask all your blessings on the people who have been called to lead this community in which we live and work and play. Grant them and us the wisdom and the courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Mouton.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samuel.
Present.
Councilmember Durio.
Here.
Councilmember Getz.
Present.
Councilmember Turner.
Present.
Councilmember Felshaw.
Present.
And Councilmember Neal.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. On today, we have a very special presentation, and I would ask if Mrs. Pamela Cooper with the Links Incorporated, please come forward to make this presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Mouton, council members and staff, and all those in attendance, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to recognize our sister, our friend, City Attorney Sharae Reed. I am Pamela Cooper, President of the Golden Triangle Chapter of the Links Incorporated, and we have some members present. I'd like to recognize all of our Links members that are present. Thank you. The Links Incorporated is a nonprofit corporation established in 1946, consisting of more than 16,000 professional women of African descent in 292 chapters located in 41 states, the District of Columbia, the Bahamas, and the United Kingdom. The Golden Triangle chapter of the Links Incorporated was chartered May 8, 1971, and recently celebrated 50 years of friendship and service. Our chapter continues to serve the Golden Triangle community by volunteering with the Julie Rogers Gift of Life, Habitat for Humanity, voter registration, and providing scholarships for college-bound young women in Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Orange. City Attorney Reed, can you come forward, please? City Attorney Sharae Reed has been a valuable member of the Golden Triangle chapter since 2015. She has served in many capacities and continues to give of her time, talent, and friendship. We are all so very proud to call you our sister, City Attorney Reed. We know that you will serve this council and the city of Beaumont well. The Golden Triangle chapter of the Links Incorporated salutes you today.
You're welcome to take a picture if y'all like. You're welcome to take a group picture if you would like.
I'm nigga. I went today. Somebody-
One, two, three. How you mask?
Opportunity. That concludes our presentation. Again, Sharae, congratulations on becoming the new city attorney for the city of Beaumont. Now's the time for any citizen who wishes to speak. If you would like to make a public comment on the consent agenda or items number 1 through 8, please complete the green slip to the back of the room. Fill it out, hand it to the clerk at the front of the room. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. The green light will come on. At the end of your 3 minutes, the red light will come on. Please be advised that you will be stopped at the end of your 3 minutes. So if anyone,
I don't have any at this time, Mayor.
thank you. At this time, I would ask for approval for the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's approval in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition? The motion carried. We're gonna make a little change because we have some people from out of town that we're gonna just make an adjustment. We're gonna go to the regular agenda item number 1. And I'm gonna ask the city manager to please read the caption. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, item number 1, it's a long ordinance, let me read it quickly. It's an ordinance authorizing the issuance to the City of Beaumont, Texas Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Refunding Bonds, Taxable Series 2022, and one or more series or sub-series as may be further designated, authorizing each of the mayor, the city manager, and the chief financial officer to approve the amounts, interest rates, prices, and terms thereof, and certain other matters relating thereto, providing for the payment thereof, making other provisions regarding such bonds, including authorizing the preparation and distribution of one or more preliminary official statements, and authorizing the preparation and distribution of one or more official statements, and matters incident thereto, awarding the sale of the bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more bond purchase agreements, authorizing the defeasance, final payment, and discharge of certain outstanding bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more escrow agreements, authorizing the purchase of and subscription for certain escrowed securities, authorizing escrow verification and engagement of an escrow agent, authorizing bond insurance, authorizing the execution and delivery of a paying agent registrar agreement and other related documents, and making other provisions regarding such bonds. So at this time, Mayor and Council, Dusty Traylor, who's our financial advisor, and Derek Mitchell, who's our bond attorney. They both do excellent work for the city of Beaumont, have for a number of years. We have a great relationship with both of them. We're pleased they're here. They're going to make a presentation today.
Thank you, Kyle. Mayor, members of the council, again, for the record, Dusty Traylor with RBC Capital Markets. We have honor and privilege of serving the city as financial advisor. Kyle had to read a lot of words there. the bottom line, there is an opportunity to refinance outstanding bonds of the city's water and sewer system to reduce the interest rate on those bonds and help to reduce your annual debt service costs, debt service burdens on those outstanding bonds. And so what we're looking at authorizing here today is for the city to be able to refinance the Series 2014A and 2015A waterworks and sewer system revenue bonds. Our most recent numbers, we're looking at refunding between about $33 and $43 million of those two series. And the differential there, rates could move on us a little bit, and some of those refunding candidates may or may not make sense at such time as we're able to get out into the market to execute the refinancing. And we're looking at savings right now anywhere between about $200,000 and $300,000 per year over the course of the remaining life of these bonds. That refinancing, the term of those bonds goes out to approximately 2034. So we're looking at between about a little over $2 million and $3 million in total savings for the city over the life of this refinancing. So we're trying to get out there into the market to be able to lock in interest rates, hopefully before the Fed starts raising long-term rates on us, or starts raising rates on us.
Thanks, Dusty. And so, I mean, if you look at your ordinance, it's what we call a parameter sale. So today, we're asking that you have guardrails, if you will, in terms of what the savings should be. The principal amount, like Dusty said, up to, I think it's up to 43 million. And then that will allow us, when the market is right, when Dusty says the time is right and Todd agrees, then we'll go to the market and hopefully save you as much as possible.
Sounds great.
And I would say one thing. I think the ordinance actually authorizes up to 67 million. At this time, we think the actual max will be about 43. But none of those proceeds can be new money proceeds. They all have to be dedicated for refinancing, and we cannot extend the original term of these bonds.
Past 2034.
Right, that's correct.
Any questions? Well, I think with a savings like that, nobody has anything to say. Okay, thank you so very much. We appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you all. Good to see everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move now to,
Mayor and council, we'd recommend that you vote on this.
you want us to vote on it today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I move that we approve the ordinance.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
I'll take it.
Okay, Councilmember Turner. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Mayor, council, we have a discussion item today to receive and discuss proposals related to a national search for the position of city manager. And there are two firms represented here today. The first presentation will be from Baker Tilly US LLP. The second one, just so you know, will be SGR, Strategic Government Resources. These are two companies based here in Texas. And after their presentations, I would encourage you to ask any and all questions, and then at some point, the council's gonna have to make a determination of how to move forward in selecting one search firm to represent your interest. So today's purpose, as requested led by the mayor, was to bring in these two firms. So the first presentation will be from Baker Tilly US.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff, I am Edward Williams. Give me 1 second, let me launch this.
Thank you.
Again, I am Edward Williams. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present our process to you. We're excited about the opportunity to assist the City of Beaumont identify its next city manager. Essentially, Baker Tilly is an international accounting firm, one of the top 10 firms in the nation. Victims to our success, our firm, which was initially, or you may have heard of us as Waters Consulting out of Dallas, Raleigh Waters, Chuck Rohr, and Chuck Anderson, others served in this capacity, or I would argue were pioneers in the executive recruitment business. We were then acquired by Springstead out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and as about 3 years ago, we were acquired by Baker Tilly. We continue to provide the same level of service, specifically executive services in the public sector. That includes school districts, counties, cities, special districts, you name it. We specialize only in that particular service. Before we begin, I'll tell you a little bit about myself without going into a whole lot of details. I've been in this business for approximately, well, a little bit over 20 years. I won't say how much, but a little bit over 20 years. Prior to joining Baker Tilly, I served as the Director of Human Resources and Development for the city of Missouri City here in Fort Bend County. Prior to that, I was the Deputy Director for the state of Missouri, where we had 75,000 employees, so I thought Missouri City would be a whole lot easier at 350. It was not true, so that should give you an idea. But in your proposal, you have a page with my credentials that will give you some sense of what we have done, or what I have done professionally. I'm sharing with you at this time a list of current searches and similar types of position that we have recently completed, some that we are actually currently completed. This is what we do. The current client list includes the city of Denton, North Kansas City, Missouri, Corpus Christi, Texas, Greeley, Colorado, Louisville, Pflugerville, Port Arthur, and the list goes on and on. This is what we do. Our team is basically a team of 5 consultants. Our former director, firm leader, retired about 3 months ago, and I was tapped as one of the practice co-leader for our firm. So it's good news, excitement, but it's also a challenge and an opportunity for us. Simply put, we have no agenda. We become an extension of your HR department, and we basically work with you to identify the profile for your desired or ideal candidate. In most cases, it is easy to grab 20, 30 resumes, but what you're really looking for is a match between the traits, attribute, the characteristics that you desire in your next city manager. We're talking way beyond education, overall experience, certification. We're talking soft skills. We're talking communication skills. We're talking empathy. We're talking inclusiveness. We're talking a number of traits and attributes that are often not seen on a resume. So the chart in front of you essentially represent the roadmap for our process. We basically start with you. We schedule individual meeting with each council member, and we listen to you. We hear what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, what are the issues that the new city manager will have to deal with. What is the strategic plan? What is the vision? What is the mission? What are the values that you intend to identify and ultimately hold that city manager responsible or accountable for delivering? What type of organization you want. So we basically get to spend, on average, 30, 40, 50 minutes with you just asking questions. And we ask each individual the same question. We develop a profile. We then launch a 3-part recruiting process that includes not only your traditional postings, but we also query into our database of previous applicants or individuals who have told us, we're looking for a job, but it has to be this specific. The other thing we do is we do outreach. Once we identify a profile, there's some individuals that are very happy where they are, but they would be open to opportunities if presented to them. we reach out to those individuals. Of course, in a very respectful way, we ask, do you know anyone? If they're interested, they often tell us yes. Let's talk a little bit about the profile for your city manager. I'm sure you all will agree, every city manager, especially that you would desire to hire, is an expert in everything you can think of, from public safety to finance to economic development to all of those things. They have to be superstars in all of those things, and then they must have a sense of humor on top of that. I'm sorry to say we often may not find that person. They may not have 100% of those skills or traits, but we can find 90%, and we can work with you through a performance evaluation, a strategic planning to ensure that the city manager has room for development and improvement continuously. So we meet with you, we identify those straight. The management style. I'm a firm believer that there is a significant difference between leadership and management. And so we find a way to separate those evaluative tools to determine what are your leadership traits? How do you inspire? How do you motivate? How do you communicate? And then we also look at how you manage projects. How do you track? How do you update council? How do you communicate? Those are all assessments that we conduct in the process of identifying your next city manager. We then take, if you have, some organizations do, some don't, we take your strategic plan and we look at your mission. What's your purpose for existing? What is your vision? Where do you want to be? What are your values? What do you value? What's important to you? And we look at all of those things and we bring them together, and then we launch the search. We post in your traditional ICMA, that's the International City Managers Association, the Texas City Managers Association. We post where every city manager is. We query our database, and then we submit 3 things once we have reached that 30-day posting period. We ask for a due diligence completion. So that includes everything. I want to know, have you ever filed for bankruptcy? I will check every court. We will check county, city. We'll verify Social Security. We do as much as verify a 6 offender registry, because our view is council should never be surprised by information that we should have or could have found out about. And that's how we operate in this process. We also perform a written questionnaire. We do a basic written interview. The reason for that is we want to determine how well each applicant can write, because city managers do have to write, how well they communicate. That's important. And then we also do a one-way video interview. The best way to explain that is doing FaceTime after reading 3, 4, 5 questions that we formulate based on the profile we develop. Once we have gathered that information, we provide you with a semifinal report. And that semifinal report is a summary of the resumes, cover letters, due diligence questionnaire, written questionnaire, and we provide you with a link to the videos. You can watch the videos on your own time. You then select your top 4, top 5, and then the fun begins. We then take that information, and we do the verification. We do reference checks. We do media coverage. If you've ever, I often joke with my daughter that back in our days we had encyclopedias. Now you can quickly Google anyone's name and find something about them that they may not often want everybody to know. But we do that. We search, we verify social media postings, and once we have 4 finalists and we've got academic verification, professional certification credentials, we verify everything, and we then bring you that information for you to interview the candidates. We then provide you with suggested questions. If you want to use those, we provide you with suggested questions. These are the one-way videos that we talked about. Once you've selected and we've conducted the background, one of the other tools that is optional for some organization is, and I'm sure you've all done some semblance of Myers-Briggs, colors, or similar personality profiles. Now, there are 2 ways of doing this, and we make this available as part of our all-inclusive process. One, we can use a national sample for comparison's sake of the TTI assessment, which we ask all of your 4 finalists to complete. If you're interested in the process, you can identify what are the dominant traits or skills you want in your individuals, and we then compare that and present that information to you. One caution, it is not a predictive tool. In other words, there are other factors that influences outcomes in these types of tools. But we believe, and I have found, that it is a very effective way of evaluating the individuals you consider for this very important role. Now, on average, the search could take anywhere between 90 and 120 days. And we talked about some of the deliverables in that final report. The questionnaire, the online presence, the background check. This is more information about DISC, and I'm going to spare you the details. It is in the proposal. If you have questions about it, I'll be happy to answer those questions. But in the interest of time, I just want to highlight, essentially, the DISC measures 4 critical components, and they're in front of you: dominance, influence, steadiness, compliance. You need to understand how those individuals listen, relating based on their responses to scientific evaluation. How trusting are they based on the same type of questions? And there's more detail about the TTI. I'm going to stop. You also get a summary of the behavior from the tool. Once you identify the individual you desire to hire, if necessary, if you request it, we provide you with salary data. We walk through the salary negotiation piece and ensure that there is an acceptance on the table. Essentially, we're an extension of your HR department. We basically lead every aspect of this step with your HR support, working directly with you. And ultimately, we've got a little variant right now, and so there's some options that we may be able to use. We use Teams. I'm sure some of you have used WebEx or similar types of tools if necessary, and based on where we are relative to COVID, there are some options that we can also use. Thank you for listening, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Neal, then Councilmember Samuel.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 26, the proposed cost, this 24.5, there's no other hidden fees, additional, anything on there, correct?
No, sir. Essentially, that's an all-inclusive fee. The only other fee would be, should you choose to bring 4 candidates to your city, you would then be responsible for their travel. But in terms of our fees and services, plus we guarantee your placement. If for any reason the individual you select should separate from service, be it win the lottery and move to Beverly Hills, or you fire them, within a 12-month period, we will redo the search free of professional fees.
Is your travel fees included in this?
Yes, sir. Our travel fees are all inclusive in the total cost. So the only travel cost you would have to take care of would be that of your applicants.
Okay.
But this is all inclusive for us. And this includes visits to your city for personal interview, for personal profile development, if we're unable to do them virtually. It also includes visit to your city for, to be available during the interview process if you choose to do that.
Okay, on page 27, you talk about a web-based community survey. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. It's an option that's there. Part of our process includes, and again, this is your process. We work for you. You tell us what you want. We make it happen. We have those tools and resources. The community survey is basically a tool that would allow us to develop a survey. We could use a tool like SurveyMonkey, make it available on your website. Council members invite their community, HOAs or different community groups to log in and answer some specific questions. Sample would be, what type of education would you like for the city manager to have? What are the main issues, concerns, or opportunities you believe the next city manager should immediately address? What type of communication style? To what extent should the city manager be involved in community issues? And the list goes on and on. We could easily develop those for you. That would be an alternative to focus groups where we would meet with the community in person and try to formulate similar questions. So again, whatever you choose, that's the best option for us.
All right, a couple more questions.
Yes, sir.
At what point do you make the candidates public?
Very good question. The reality, and our city attorney can tell us that, technically, all applications are subject to public disclosure, technically. However, we try to keep those lists. I've got a big client right now somewhere in the US that the community is desperately asking, give me the names. It's very important to protect those because they're individuals who have not notified their supervisors that they may be interested or exploring other jobs, and they could lose their jobs. So the absolute bottom line is once you have identified your top 4 finalists, I encourage the applicants at that point, talk to your bosses. Your name is more than likely going to be in the paper as a finalist for the city of XYZ. And so we believe there is a balance there. And in the event that there is a request for public information, I think the Attorney General allows for some challenge in it, and we may be able to redact, I think the word is redact, some of the applications. Please correct me if I'm veering off. Okay, thank you.
All right, last question. Tell me
Yes.
what you know about Beaumont.
Ooh, where do I start? Of course, the simple answer is Spindletop. I've spent a lot of time researching. I read about every city council member because my job is to find your next city manager. The next city manager, I need to be able to tell them what I think about their bosses. So I looked at a couple of things. I looked for a strategic plan. I read as much as I could about your city manager. 30 years total, 19 as city manager, 5 prior to that. Thinking about international travel as you retire. May stay on beyond March. I learned a little bit about each, but one of the things that I learned, and regardless of what you do today, I sat back there and witnessed one of the things I learned about Beaumont. Friendly people. And I saw that exemplified today, people coming in and hugging and saying hello. I do see that there are some challenges though, and so we can talk about that. I'm not going to address them now, but I learned about the natural resources and beauty in the city. I learned about the challenges with crime. I learned a lot about Beaumont. I think there is a great opportunity. I think a strategic plan is in order so you can create your vision, so you can leave your legacy 10 years down the road. The old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any old road can get you there. So, Councilman, I have learned a lot. I learned that in 03, the first, what is the gold thingy, the oil?
1901.
August.
I'm sorry, I added 2 years to that, I'm sorry. But we're close, right?
January 10th to be exact.
Thank you. The National Fire, what is it? The National Fire Museum or the State Fire Museum is also here.
Down the street.
There are a number of great places. I've done some work in a nearby city and actually have stopped by on our way from the casino when going to the casino was viable. And so I learned a little bit about your city. I can go on, but in the interest of time, I'll stop.
Thank you. Councilmember Samuel.
Yes, one of the questions I had in mind, you answered. The other is, I saw in perusing your materials that you had current as Denton, Texas, as well as in 2017, there was also a date with Denton city managers. So was that the same process or was that different city managers?
I think the 2017 was a court, the chief municipal judge.
Okay.
Who there was at the time we offered a 20-month guarantee, and the city, the judge left after 23 months and like 3 weeks, but we had to honor that agreement. But no, the city of Denton, the city manager is current.
And with your guarantee, if there is a problem within the year, the process would begin again without any additional expenses.
Without any additional professional fees. You may have to pay for advertising that would run somewhere between $1,200 to $1,500.
Turner.
Okay, on page 2, and you got understanding the approach, and I see you said Beaumont's recruitment would be national and inclusive in nature. Can you kind of get more in detail about national and inclusive? That kind of caught my interest. I just want some more details about that.
Yes, sir. There's some instances, this morning I had a conversation at a state somewhere that I will not mention, which I rejected the project because it was too state specific. When I say national, despite the different forms, most municipal organizations have the county, the city manager type of government. That is the most popular. There are some cities or communities that has a strong mayor type of organization where they do not have technically a city manager. Instead, they have oftentimes an administrator, and the mayor is the chief administrative officer. So one of the things we do, one, we make it clear that unless you direct us to make this a Texas-only search, we want this to be a national search. It's a wider net that we cast, and you can then decide who is the best fit for the organization. Inclusive, it means you will not get additional charges. Well, we had to do this. No, it's all inclusive. And it's as simple as that, Councilman.
Okay. And one thing I noticed that you all put our understanding of Beaumont. So tell me how you came up with the understanding of Beaumont's needs from your perspective.
The understanding of Beaumont's.
Needs. That's also on page 2.
Yes, sir. At the end of the day, the understanding of those needs are solidified after we've had specific conversations with you. But the best understanding we get is by looking at your budget, the most recently approved budget. We look at your financial reports. One of the benefits or blessings of my position is that we're selective. We do not apply for every job that's out there. And so when we think opportunities that I feel passionate about, or where I see that we can actually make a difference, we pursue them. And so our understanding, again, I mentioned consistency, steadiness. An old coach used to say that city managers are like in the NFL, not for long. So that's a rarity. And if you think that you're gonna find a city manager that's gonna be with you for another 19 years, it may not happen. And so that trend has changed a lot. So we understand that your expectation is way up here because of the stability you've had for so long. On average, according to the TCMA, city managers are in a 3 to 4 year cycle, 3, 4, 5 year cycle. That is often because of the election cycle and the political nature of changes in our communities and society. So that's more than I think you'd asked for, but I thought hopefully I answered your question.
A few more, Robin. I ain't gonna take too long. I'm sorry, I asked a lot of questions. Okay, page 5. You said qualified candidates that may not actually be, looking for a job. Can you go in a little bit more depth on how you kind of tap into those qualified candidates that may not be even interested or looking for a job?
Secret, Councilman, I can't tell you that. Now, here's the reality, and I'm sure if you have a LinkedIn account, at some point you've gotten some type of notice that XYZ is looking for someone, and you just look like somebody that would meet those qualifications. We get inquiries, notices, emails, phone calls. Hey, hey, what do you think? What are they looking for? I can't apply yet because it may go public. But we get these conversations, and so we know who is looking, who may be interested, but we also know who meets the profile that you develop. Based on that, we may say, hey, Edward, the city of Beaumont is looking for a city manager. Do you have anyone in your network who may find this of interest? I'm sure you've never gotten that, but most people get those types of inquiries, and I'm not asking you to share, but that's the idea.
Okay, I see you have team leads. How do you kind of pair your team leads with, the city that you may be doing work for? Would it be like a team lead that we work directly with?
What are you referring to, Councilman?
You had towards the end of the program, it tells a little bit about everybody.
Oh,
And it has team leads, so we'll be working directly with one of those leads, or like how does that work if you were selected to move
if
forward?
we were selected in this case, I would be leading the search. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I noticed for strategy for recruitment of diverse candidates, NFBPA. Can you tell us a little bit about the National Forum of Black Public Administrators and the Local Government for Hispanic Network?
Yes, sir. The National Forum for Public Administrator, Black Public Administrator, also known as NFBPA, is probably the premier organization for historically underrepresented group, mainly black administrators in the United States. It has a very large network of city, county administrators. We happen to be, Baker Tilly is a corporate sponsor, and so we advertise. I was a member of NFBPA for a number of years. I still work very closely with them. And as you all know, good, bad, or different, networks matter. And so when there are opportunities, we don't get special treatment. We pay to advertise our positions there, but it's a lot easier to get that phone call from folks that know us and that can trust us to say, let me ask Edward, without counsel knowing, so I won't lose my job tomorrow. Hispanic, the National Hispanic Network, that's part of my culture, part of who I am. As a Spanish speaker, I grew up in a Latin American country. And so for me, despite what you see, it is very important to give people of all colors opportunity. And being fluent in Spanish allows me to communicate with folks right where they are. And that is a matter that I find, that is one of those skills that I find very, very rewarding. Again, long answer. Hope I answered your question, sir.
And last question. I noticed you had a Dibs steering committee. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about the steering committee?
Yes, sir. Dibs, diversity, inclusion, belonging. Critical to the process. One of the things that I love, and this is I guess my commercial for Baker Tilly, I'm glad that I work for Baker Tilly because I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We've been through some crazy times as we reconcile with the past and prepare for the future. Diversity, belonging, inclusion sounds good, but I like to know that belonging is part of that. And so talk the talk, walk the walk. I'm part of that with Baker Tilly, and it's something that I take very personal because it's a firm that's committed to not only putting up we are diversity, all that, the stuff that you see, they put it into action. And of course, for me, that's very important. So, that's, yes, sir.
Councilmember Getz.
Dr. Williams, thank you very much for being here today. I have a few questions as well. One of the first questions I have is, in addition to yourself, you said you were in Missouri City, Texas. How many other members of your team that you've listed in your brochure have Texas connections?
Art Davis was an assistant, a director for the city of Dallas. He now lives in another state. Cecilia Hernandez lives in the Dallas area. Our office is actually in Plano. It used to be in Addison. After the pandemic, we consolidated, and so everything is in Plano. Chuck Rohr, who recently retired from our group, now lives in the Austin area. Geez, I think that's it. We've got an extensive connection. I'm sure you've heard of Raleigh Waters. He's still part of our network, and when I advertise a position, Raleigh makes sure that he puts it out there as well. And so our Texas connection is very strong.
Okay. Kind of piggybacking on something that Councilmember Samuel said, I also noticed the Denton position. It is advertised in your brochure as that you did a search for a city manager in 2016, and now you have an active search for a city manager. Was that a misprint, or do you think it was a judge, or?
It's a little bit of both. I think it was the judge, because the Denton city manager was there for about, I want to say 6 years. I'd be happy to go back and verify that, and I'd hate to sit here and tell you something that is not accurate, but I'd be happy. I do know that we did the municipal judge a few years ago,
Okay.
because I was involved with that, but I will definitely go back, verify, and notify, send Chris the notice so he can share that with you all.
I would appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Neal asked you a little bit about your stakeholder engagement option that you do. Am I correct in understanding that that's an optional service with an add-on price?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So I think you said that would be $1,650 to do that, and that would be doing the Survey Monkey and types of
Yes, sir.
things to try to get community input as to what they would like to see qualities in a new city
Councilman,
manager.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's
I suggest the Survey Monkey because of the times we're in, and it's very difficult to get a lot of people in a room for any, you know why. So the
Right.
Survey Monkey, in my view, at this point, is your best alternative for a community input survey,
as opposed to focus groups and that sort
as
of thing.
opposed to focus
Sure.
group. Yes, sir.
Sure, I understand that. Are there any other add-on prices other than doing the community engagement, or in addition to your inclusive price of $24,500?
When you say any, in terms of our process, no, sir. The only other option would be, you may say after, I want you here every day. I've had clients that says, we want you every day during the city manager's first week just because. Okay. But beyond the process launch to a signed agreement, there is nothing, no additional fees.
You mentioned the need for a comprehensive plan. You know, without knowing the road that you're on, you could take any old road, I think is what you said. Were you able to find any type of a comprehensive plan in your research, or have you talked to anybody about that for the city of Beaumont? Do you have any idea what we want?
I'm hopeful that during my meetings with the city council, I can get a better understanding of what you want, because it is one of those things that we also do. It's a separate group and service, but it would be a very, very smooth transition to give you all what I call an opportunity to create a blueprint for the future.
Thank you.
Councilmember Durier.
How you doing, Mr. Williams?
Doing good, thank you, sir.
Just a couple of questions. In your past experience, when you're recruiting or looking for people to fill these positions as city manager, and in your advertising, do you come upon a time when there be local people that would apply or qualify for it? Or if you're on a national search, it's hardly ever local?
When you say local people, are you, Councilman, when I hear local, I can think city limits, metroplex, state,
Area,
nation.
local, area, regional.
One of the things that, and I think Mr. Hayes will agree, the city manager, even the police, everybody has this small professional network, and you know each other. City attorneys, most of them know each other. So I guarantee you, regardless of how you define local, if I advertise this position, most city managers and assistant city managers and department directors in the region, be it your city limits, the Harris County, whatever your county is, your parameters, your state, whatever your state is, everybody knows. I get inquiries from California about jobs in Texas all the time. It's a small group. So the simple answer to your question is everybody will know. There is no way to hide when you have these types of searches.
And one other question: whenever we come to I guess the final four, when you present that to us, are they ranked, or that's just up to us?
The only job I do is I bring you what you're looking for. You will rank them. And in fact, we strongly recommend that you do not rank during the process, because it's a city council decision in an open session as opposed to an executive session. So the ranking, whatever that decision is, should be done in public. So the answer is no, sir. You will rank at some point.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, thank you for being here today. One of the questions I have is that you said that you will be the primary overseer of the search. However, there is a team Do you consult back with your team for assistance, or is it primarily done on all by yourself?
No, I wish I could tell you, Mayor, that I was that good. No, I rely on my team for everything. If you look in our proposal, Michelle and Cecilia are recruitment analysts, and we have other staff member that one of the most important thing for us is communication. So when you apply with us, you're not going to drop your resume off and go, I never heard back from them. We tell you every step. My team is part of that process. We meet every Monday morning and we talk about the projects. And one of the good things is the other consultants will say, you know what? I saw X person 6 months ago in a search. I think they would be great for that city. They mentioned that their wives moved to that area. I think this would be a good source. Let me send you their information. And so, although you hire me, you get the entire team. That's the simple answer, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And another question, the Survey Monkey and the community involvement, you said it's an additional $1,650?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know exactly what's the amount, but I think it's somewhere in that area and it's in your proposal. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's in the proposal. So if we were to go to that and use that process, you go through all of the comments, all of the suggestions in which the community input. We don't have to go through and decipher all of that information, correct?
Let me make sure we understand. Let me just walk you through a process quickly, Mayor, and I
Good.
think this should help. We do the survey. Depending on the survey, the number of questions you approve may be, let's say, 10 questions. We try to do very few open-ended questions because it's often an opportunity for people to gripe about things or go into areas that are not relevant to the process. So we ask, which of the following represents the highest level of education you would like to see in your next city manager? High school diploma, bachelor's degree, associate's, PhD, JD. How many years of experience, credentials? We do leave some open-ended questions. For example, what's one piece of advice you would give your next city manager? Very, very important tool. You often get a lot of stuff. So the answer to your question, once the survey closes, I provide you with a report that says a total of 150 people responded to the survey. Gender breakdown, demographics sometimes, depending on the nature of the tool that we design and you approve. And then the open-ended questions will be basically listed, so you would not have to go searching. You would find of the 150 people, 75 provided the following comments, and you will have a list of 75 comments unless they're repeated. And so we use a qualitative analysis type of deal to identify those questions that are repetitive in nature and basically do a star or something that says 5 individuals said the city manager must be friendly. And so you would get a report that clearly outlines all of the responses. Did that make sense?
It does.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it would take anywhere from 90 to 120 days. Do you see it going longer?
It all depends, Mayor. On average, and let me walk you through real quick so you can see, and it will also give you an idea what flexibility you have. Let's say the 1st of February we sign an agreement. You will do our city manager executive search. We start scheduling individual meetings. We gather that information. We then put together a draft profile. You all approve. We launch the search. Well, we draft the brochure. We bring it back to you for approval. You like the pictures, you like the content, the requirements, the opportunities, all of the associated skills that you want to see. This is good, let's go. We advertise for 30 days. So now we're looking at 2-3 weeks at the beginning, 30 days to advertise. Once the first review date comes, we then need to review the application and do what's called a classification, who meets the education, the experience, the skills. We basically bring it all together. And then we assign The due diligence questionnaire, the written questionnaire, that's often an 8 to 10 day period. Applicants hate it, but it's often a very good way of gathering information about the candidates. We get that information, we get the semifinal report to you. You then look at it and you say, these are our top 4. It takes us 10 days to conduct the background search. Sometimes counties or courts have paper functions, and so to verify someone's credentials, they may need to go to a paper process. Some allow it, have access to electronic documents. And so that's a 10-day process. So 30 days after the first review, 30 days for the first review, we still have to do some additional work, the references, the background, the leadership assessment, scheduling interviews. 90 days would probably be the most expedient I think we could do to do each of the required steps of our process. In some cases, we could reduce from 30 days posting to, instead of 4 weeks, do 3 weeks posting. It's like tax day. Most people wait, especially in this type of position, the last day to apply because the media may ask and they don't want to expose themselves to being in the publications. And so there are all kinds of variables, Mayor. So safe bet, 90 days, 120 more realistic. Because even after you make an offer, if the city manager is not employed, fantastic. Well, maybe not, but they may need to give 30 days. I've seen contracts that requires 60 days, 6 months, whatever the agreement is that they may have. So it really depends, but I think 90 to 120 day is reasonable, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibbs.
Dr. Williams, a couple of things. The city of Beaumont by charter does not offer a contract to our city manager. I know that a lot of cities do, but basically our city charter prescribes that our city manager is at will. What kind of difficulties does that present in selecting a new city manager?
Do I have to answer that? It's a scary proposition, Councilman. As I said, city managers in this day and age stands for not for long. It is scary because nobody wants to take a job that somewhere in this United States, the city manager lost his job 6 weeks before an election. City hired another city manager. The new council came on board. The majority flipped. The city manager hired less than 3 months before is without a job, who had just moved the family from X city into another city. So that's a long answer, Councilman, but it is a scary proposition. However, there is a silver lining. If the organization has a strategic plan, because nobody fires bad leaders, they fire bad managers. And so if you have a strategic plan that clearly outlines what I call smart performance measures, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, and said, city manager, you will pave 5 miles of street within whatever number of days, do so according to the most effective standards and best practices in the industry, and let us know when it's done. Send us all an email and let us know. Did you do that? It's like kind of dead. Either you did it or you didn't. If the city, I found, has clearly defined performance measures, the need for a contract is not there because there is a significant difference between performance review and performance management. If you're managing performance, you have an ongoing conversation. So, oh, Edward, you didn't pave the street. That's 12 months after you told me to do it. Shouldn't have taken you 12 months to realize that I haven't paved the streets as you directed. If there is a performance management in place, after 3 months, you should have something done. After 6 months, you should be 50% there. Make sense? I think when you have something like that, despite the contract, which is often the only recourse city managers have, city managers that are really good will take the job without a contract if there is a clearly defined performance expectation.
So it sounds to me like you would be a big proponent of having regular performance reviews so that a city manager can understand whether or not he's meeting those expectations from the
I
council.
don't know that I would be a proponent of that. I think any organizational design theorist would tell you that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yeah, I agree with that very much. One of the things that I really appreciate is that we're down here in public interviewing Baker Tilly, and the other firm SGR will be speaking in a few minutes. It's transparent to the public. This conversation is important for the public to hear, and it goes back to a question I think that Councilmember Neal asked, the whole process and the degree of the yin and the yang, the balance of confidentiality and the need to protect your applicants from possibly revealing to their current employer that they may be looking, and that might invite the current employer to say, well, you don't need to look, you just go ahead and go. I understand that. Versus the public's interest to know, well, what are y'all thinking about? Who y'all thinking about bringing? And, you know, you're using our tax dollars. We want to know what y'all are doing. So, and this might be a question for the city attorney, and I have seen, and anybody can just Google and see in other cities, other city manager searches where the council has kept everything very much behind closed door, and the council is just assailed by the media for not being more transparent. What can we expect in terms of realistic expectations of putting names out there? What does the Attorney General allow us to do? What does the Open Meetings Act allow us to do? How does all that work? And let me defer to her before I ask you another one.
So essentially, because they're handling the search process until they actually give those names to the city, in which he said they present us with the final four, that's the information that we're compelled to give. And so the names are the least of it. Whatever information in terms of anything that they would produce, the media would obviously want a copy of. And so we would have to get with them to see what information is proprietary, what information needs to be redacted. Just like any other application, they'll have their name, their social, their address, their birth date. Some of that privacy information obviously would come out. But generally speaking, the media is just interested in knowing who the finalists are so they can Google them and find out that information themselves. So once we get the finalists, that's the information. But they can put out an application to get 50 people who inquire but don't apply. And we don't have that information because we're not filtering it through. That's their information.
So maybe I'm confusing this with the realm of school superintendent searches, but
Yes, sir.
I have seen elected boards get just absolutely castigated for having a sole finalist.
Yes, sir. Once we have a sole finalist, obviously we know who that is and we have that information available. And so like while we're, I guess, going through the negotiation part, there's nothing that really allows us under the Open Meetings Act to withhold that person's name. So that person, like I said, once we get down to the final four, once they present the final four, it's fair game for the media because we now know who those individuals are.
Okay.
And so we'd be compelled to release that.
I think that answered my question on that.
Okay, any other questions? Dr. Williams, thank you so very much for coming before us today. Appreciate the information.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one sec.
You gotta be quick, man.
Mayor and Council, next you'll have a presentation from SGR, Strategic Government Resources. And here's your
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Kevin Hugman. I am representing SGR today. On behalf of our president, J.J. Peters, I'll be making the presentation to you. Thank you for inviting us today. We look forward to hopefully being able to work with the city of Beaumont on the next, your next city manager. And congratulations to Mr. City Manager on your upcoming retirement. First of all, let me say again, just a little bit of introduction. I am Senior Vice President with SGR. I will be the project manager on this project if we are selected. So you would be working with me directly. We do have staff that will assist me, research specialist, administrative staff, and marketing team as well. A little bit about me. I have over 25 years in the public sector. I started out my career in South Lake, Texas. I was a Parks and Recreation Community Services Director. I was a Human Resources Director for 7 years, and then I went to the city of Wichita Falls as an Assistant City Manager, and then I was a City Manager in Duncanville, Texas, which is a first-tier suburb city of Dallas. I retired from there in 2020. So a little bit about SGR. We were incorporated in 2002. We are a Texas-based company. Most of the work that we do is in Texas, but we do a lot of work nationally, as you will see in a little bit. We very much believe in public service, and that is really our focus, is working with local governments. We believe in helping city councils and cities find leaders that believe in public service and are dedicated public servants. And that stems from our CEO, Ron Hollifield, and his passion, and that extends throughout the company. A lot of our employees, including myself, are former public sector employees. We are headquartered in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we do have virtual offices in other states. We do more than just recruitment. We also do leadership and development. We do strategic planning, consulting, and we do executive recruiting, and we also do interim placement. So we also have a staff of people that do interim assignments and help, for example, interim city managers, interim directors for cities to help fill gaps while they are searching for someone permanent. As you can see, we do have clients all across the nation and in most states. We do work, as I said, a lot of our work is in Texas, but we do work all over the United States. And so we have a very vast network, which is why we have virtual offices in 9 other states and recruiters throughout the country. So some of the keys to the successful search. One of the things certainly is we need to know the unique culture, the needs of the city of Beaumont, what you're looking for in the next city manager. What are the challenges that you have? What are the characteristics that you're looking for in your next leader? What are the things that you see as the most important issues that that person is going to have to deal with in the near future and in the long term? We also provide state-of-the-art talent marketing. We do reach a national candidate pool, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We do extensive candidate vetting. So one of the things that we really want to make sure of in our process is that we have vetted out the candidates that we bring to you so that there are no surprises. And that is not just at the beginning, but that is throughout the process. So with searches, Google searches, media searches, background checks, reference checks, all of those things together, the intent is to make sure that you have a candidate that there's not a surprise, that you know as best you can what you're getting, and there's not anything that's going to embarrass the city afterwards. We want to make sure that the candidates also understand the organization. When a candidate applies, we start providing them media, newspaper articles, clippings, news alerts about that particular city so that they are aware as well. Most candidates do their own research. And if there's a city they're interested in, they're going to do the research on that city. But we also try to provide them any kind of media news about the city, so that, again, the candidate is not surprised or knows as well kind of what some of the issues may be, some of the things that are going on. Because, again, what you don't want is a candidate to get into the final process and then they withdraw because of something that they're surprised. Just like you don't want surprises, a candidate doesn't want to get surprised either. And we try to provide a process that is smooth and seamless and user-friendly for both the candidates and for you. We have a very good reputation with candidates. They trust us. And so a lot of candidates apply for searches that we are conducting where they might not apply sometimes otherwise. The typical timeline is about 12 weeks following the approval of the recruitment brochure. All total is, again, about 90 to 120 days, 3 to 4 months. It's usually 4 months from the time if we're selected, from the time that I meet with you to finalist interviews is about 4 weeks. We can sometimes shorten that a little bit, shave off a week, 2 weeks, a couple of weeks here and there. But overall, it's going to be a lengthy process because, again, of the processes that we have, the time that it takes to do media searches, background checks, the time it takes to get candidate materials back, questionnaire responses, and so forth. So the first thing that we do, again, is we meet with you. I will meet with you to establish the recruitment plan, the timeline. I will conduct individual interviews with all of you, with any other stakeholders that you would like for me to meet with, to try to find out, again, what are the things that you're looking for in the next city manager? What are the characteristics that you feel are important for a successful city manager? What are the issues that they're going to be dealing with? What are some of the things that you want to see them accomplish in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? With that information and with the information that we will get from the city of your community profile, community information, events, the size of your organization, the budget, the demographics, things like that, our marketing team will take that information that we get from you and my notes from meeting with all of you, and from that we'll draft a recruitment brochure that will highlight the community, the challenges, the opportunities, and what the ideal candidate looks like based on what you have told me. We will give that to you to review, and you can make any changes you want, and then we will launch the search with that brochure. You will always have the final approval on that brochure before we launch that. So then we start the advertising phase, and so we'll launch the position generally for 30 days. We are going to market it through social media, also through our website, and we have a very large email newsletter called the 10 and 10. It goes out once a week. We have over 48,000 subscribers to that, and we will feature the ad for the city of Beaumont several times in that newsletter, as well as putting it on our website. We also have opt-in. Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry. That's right. Last speaker was a lot taller than me. Sorry. We will also have a number of people who opt in for email alerts. So by category. So city managers who may be interested in positions will we have an email blast that goes out to them to alert them of positions that come open. So we also include a lot of social media advertising through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so a lot of job applicants these days are, of course, on social media. LinkedIn, especially, is becoming very popular. It has been for a while, but I think with the current job climate and the number of people that are out looking, LinkedIn especially has become more predominant. We are active on LinkedIn, and so a lot of times candidates or potential candidates will see something and they'll be interested in that, but we try to highlight, again, those positions and market them through social media. 75% of employed workforce consider themselves passive candidates, meaning they're not actively looking, but they're just kind of perusing something, and if they see something that's of interest, then it might get them interested in thinking about making a move or a change. Our sources, again, our direct outreach by SGR. We have, again, the national reach. We have the 10 and 10 newsletter that reaches 48,000 people across the nation. Our email blasts, we have a database of people who have applied for positions, similar positions that we can reach out to. And we also have a lot of personal contacts. A number of our recruiters, like myself, are former city managers. So we have, each of us have our own network. And of course, we have a lot of overlap in our network. But we are always talking with our friends and colleagues who are out there who may be looking and those who may not be looking, but the right opportunity or the next career opportunity comes along and we can let them know about that. We do national trade advertisements, state, and other sources. And the ad placements will be approved by you as well. So we will provide you with a list of the places that we will advertise, and if there's any additional places then that you would like for us to advertise, then we can also do that and get that information for you. The initial screening and review then, so after about advertising, typically we'll leave the positions open for 30 days before the first review of the applicants, and at that point, or soon after that, I will want to meet with you to review all of the applicants. The way that we review our initial screening of applicants is we look at those candidates who most closely match what you have said you're looking for. And we will put them, we don't rank them, but we kind of put them in 3 buckets. And that is, those are the ones who are of most or highest probability of matching your requirements, those who are of medium probability, and those who are of lowest probability of matching what you're looking for. During that time frame as well, I will talk to a lot of the applicants, especially the ones in the top tiers, to get a little better understanding of their work experience, and also why they want to come to the city of Beaumont. Why are they interested in this position? And so then when I have the initial screening meeting with the city council and review all of the applicants, I will be able to fill in some gaps that is a little bit more than what is just on their resume or what their experience shows. But we base the first screening on their experience and their resume and basically and their educational requirement, educational skills that match, again, what's most closely related to what you have told us you are looking for. That initial review then with the city council will be, the goal of that is to select the semifinalists. So at that point, I will review all of the applicants with you. Again, the ones that are, lowest probability ones, we won't talk a whole lot about. Medium probability, we'll talk more about their experience, and then those are the highest probability we'll talk as well. The goal will be for you to select about 12 semifinalists to move forward in the process. And they can be chosen out of either of those categories, the medium or highest probability, depending on what what you see, what I find out about them that maybe, may not be something you want to take on. For example, sometimes you have candidates who look very good on paper, but there's something in their history, you may be moving around a lot, and that's not something that you're wanting. Or there might be some negative publicity or something that maybe they made some bad choices. You want to know about some of those things so that it's not, again, not a surprise if you want, it may not be baggage that you want to take on. So there is some of that, a little bit of that I will do as I'm going through and screening the applicants, and then prior to meeting with you to review that. But the goal then will be for you to select the semifinalists to move forward in the process. So the semifinalists then are provided with a written questionnaire, and you will review that written questionnaire ahead of time. I'll provide you with a draft of it, and there's generally about 18 to 20 questions in there. And those questions where, as I said, the initial screening really focuses on their experience and what they've done and where they've been. The questionnaire gets a lot more into more detail of that experience. What have they done in economic development? What have they done with strategic planning? What is their experience in public works? But it also asks questions about their leadership style and their values. Questions about why did they leave their last 3 positions? what gaps in their employment and why are there those gaps, because that is valuable information to you. Everyone has various reasons for why they left, and a lot of legitimate reasons, and a lot of people have legitimate reasons for why they have gaps in their employment. There's nothing wrong with that, but you would kind of want to know what that is because there might be some concern with some of that. So those questionnaires give us a lot more of a view, a perspective of a potential candidate. We also do recorded online interviews. So I'll give you a sheet of typical questions that you can choose from, and we do the recorded online interview with the semifinalists where they answer the questions. You will then be provided with the resumes and of all of the semifinalists, the questionnaire responses, and the online interview responses for review before our next meeting. During this time, too, our staff is also doing a media search, which is called a Stage 1 media, so they're reviewing anything that's out there on the candidates that is in the media. Also includes legal searches, so if there's anything, if they've been named in lawsuits or anything, that will pop up. And so during that meeting as well, I will alert you to anything that is a red flag that we found in our searches. So with this, so again, as I mentioned, you will be provided all of that information to review. So that is some homework for the council. That is we'll take some time for you to review that. For if you have 12 semifinalists and you're reviewing a questionnaire and online video responses, that can take some time. So there is some effort as well, and we want to be cognizant of that. So we try to provide you that information about a week before our scheduled meeting so that you have time to review that. When we meet again to review the semifinalist materials, the goal will be for you to select finalist candidates. We generally recommend 4 to 5 finalists to move forward in the process. And we will talk at that time too about more about what are you wanting to do in that in those finalist interviews. So actually we'll talk about that at the first step, the screening, so that you can think about it. But what do you want to do with finalist interview? Do you want to just do an interview? Do you want to have meet and greet with the public? Do you want to do tours of the city? All of those things. So we'll have some discussion about that so that when you select the finalist candidates, we can be prepared and start planning and coordinating that. During that time then, in between the selection of the finalists and the time that you bring them on site for those interviews, we will be doing a comprehensive media search, what we call a Stage 2. The Stage 2 media search is more involved, more in-depth, and it includes social media. So we will provide all of that information to you as part of your finalist materials, and we will have gone through that. Our research analysts will have gone through that and reviewed anything that could be potentially negative or suspect, and we'll identify that separately as findings. And then we will provide, along with that, all of the other media alerts. And as you can imagine, there can be a lot of media alerts on someone, especially someone who's been a city manager. They're going to be written up in the paper, quoted for various things. So there can be a lot there, which is normal. What all of that will be provided to you, but especially to you, what you're looking at is the findings. And I will review those as well and review that with you and discuss it if you need to. We will also do a comprehensive background investigation report, and that includes criminal from Homeland Security databases, federal databases, state and county for all of the addresses of record of a candidate for the last 10 years. Also looking at civil records, and we will look at education, do an education verification check. We look at credit check to see if there's bankruptcies, liens, judgments, things like that. And if there are any flags, then you will be notified about that. Oh, and then also too, as part of that, if you want to do, a lot of times with finalists, we do what we call a first-year game plan, where we ask the candidates to prepare a presentation, a 10-minute presentation to the council to talk about what do they see as the major issues that they will be facing, or how will they approach the first 30 days as a city manager, the first 60 days, 90 days, first year. Who will they meet with? Who will they talk with? What will they do? And that helps you get a better idea of their presentation their organization, what they see as priorities, and then obviously you would be able to ask any questions of them during that time. And then, of course, the interviews is the main part of that, but we can also do any other kind of stakeholder engagement if you'd like. As I mentioned, if we do meet and greets with the public or with staff or with key members of the community. And then I would work with you on the deliberations. And so after you have finished reviewing all of your candidates, interviewing them, the council would obviously discuss those candidates, hopefully be in consensus and agreement on the top candidate. And we will also do reference checks of those candidates during that period as well, so that you will be provided reference checks on each of those finalists. And we will work with you then on any negotiations if you desire that we can work with the candidate to help negotiate the offer. And if you want to do a press release on the hiring, we will draft something for you to look at and review. And we will also do a post-hire workshop if you would like. Now, that is an additional cost, though, for that. But we do strategic planning, so that is something that we can do with you as well. So that is my presentation in a nutshell, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I know you have a lot of questions, or you did of the last person. So
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Neal.
Thank you, Mayor. What is your anticipated cost on this package?
I believe in the proposal, the cost was not to exceed $24,900.
Tell me what you know about Beaumont.
To be honest, I knew I was going to get that question. To be honest, I don't know a lot about Beaumont. I've lived in Texas almost all my life, but my career, my family have been in North Texas area. My wife grew up or lived part of her life in Houston, but I have not ever been to Beaumont before. So I haven't done a lot of research on it, haven't been here, but as I was driving in today. But one of the things that I like about this job and being able to work with other cities is to be able to see and learn new communities. And so if we are given the proposal, obviously I will be doing more research and spending some time here, as well as meeting with all of you.
All right, a couple more questions I have. One of the questions that you had on your proposal that you're going to ask the applicants to answer is, please describe why you think you are an excellent match for Beaumont. And so I'd like to ask you the question, why do you think you're an excellent match for Beaumont?
Well, that's a good question. I think because SGR knows this business, and we know how to work with candidates, we know how to work with cities. Having been a city manager, I have worked with councils, and I know the city manager side, and I know the council side and the political aspect side of things. And so able to work with candidates, I can discuss with them what I see in the city, what I see as the challenges, and what I see as the opportunities, and help you find the best candidate for your next city manager.
Well, thank you.
Councilmember Felcher.
Well, thank you, sir, for being here today. And just a couple of questions. I understand the not to exceed price, and that includes 5 candidates, correct?
Yes, sir.
Before that, on page 9, you spoke about the DISC management assessment program. But then on page 15, under the supplemental services, it's listed as $175 per candidate. So is that charge above the 5, or does that?
Yes, sir. That is not part of the not to exceed price. The DISC assessments are additional.
But okay. So the DISC, even on the initial 5, there's a charge for that.
Correct.
So that not to exceed, we'd have to put on top of that $175 for the 5 candidates if we choose to use the DISC assessment program, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I believe that's correct. I can let me verify that with our business manager, but I believe that is correct.
Yeah, I understood the not to exceed, and I understood the 5 candidates, but it sounded like the DISC was an add-on.
I believe it is.
Okay, and it's
But
not a
I will
part of
verify
the
that.
initial 24.9, yeah.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Getz.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hugman, also, in addition to your not to exceed price, just as Baker Tilly offered the opportunity to have some stakeholder engagement, SGR does for an additional price. offers some stakeholder engagement. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we do. That is also in our proposal. We do an online survey as well. We have questions, a bank of questions that we can provide to you to look at, and then we would set that up as an online survey, and that is $1,000 for that stakeholder survey.
Okay, so that's a little less than Baker Tilly's, but basically, both of these are excellent firms. Your price points are very similar. You have the luxury as well as the disadvantage of being second. I say it's the disadvantage because our attention span probably wanes as we go on through the day, but you also have the luxury of having heard your competitor.
Yes.
Would you differentiate yourself? And again, I think we couldn't go wrong with selecting either firm, but could you differentiate yourself, SGR, from Baker Tilly, and tell us why you think you would be the better choice?
So I think you're correct. I think you could not go wrong with either one. I have a lot of respect for Baker Tilly. I have known Raleigh Waters for a long time. When I was active in the profession, I went through Waters Consulting on searches at times. So I have worked with them as well. I know Raleigh Waters too, or Raleigh and Chuck Rohr. They're a very good firm. SGR also is a very good firm. And I think, from our standpoint, what I would say is that we have people who, a lot of our recruiters are practitioners who have been in the field like myself, who have been city managers. So we have, I think, that understanding of what it takes in a role. We have a network of colleagues that we have worked with. And we have throughout our organization that dedication to municipal governments. That's what we do, local government.
Okay, just a couple more things. In looking through the brochures of both firms, it appears to me that SGR is very heavily vested and has a strong presence in Texas, and that's important to me. Is that an accurate observation? In that you've worked with numerous Texas cities for placement of
Yes, sir.
positions?
That is correct. A lot of our, and I don't know the number, I can quote you the number, but a lot of our active searches right now are in the state of Texas. The searches that I am doing myself are in the state of Texas. I completed one in Kansas, but all of my other ones are here in Texas, and I am based here as well. I'm in the San Antonio area.
When SGR does a search, and I know nobody's foolproof and things can happen, but how often is it the case that something just doesn't work out when SGR places somebody, maybe in terms of a percentage? The number of active re-engagements that we are doing right now is our lowest in the last several years. So even though, and we are actually doing almost double the number of searches that we have done in the last couple of years. Of course, last year was kind of an odd year, but going back 2 years ago, when it was a fairly normal year, we were doing almost twice as many. But yet the number of our re-engagements or having to redo a search is lower than we were at 2 years ago. So we are being very successful. And again, that goes to the process. I mean, we believe in our process. We believe in working with you closely to make sure that you know and that you have that opportunity to vet those candidates, and that you are getting a candidate that you are comfortable with, that is meeting and matching the criteria that you are looking for. And again, those processes that we use throughout that, and why it takes 3 to 4 months or 4 months is because we want to make sure that you get the right candidate. You don't want to have someone in a year that you're not happy with. That's not good for you. It's not good for the public perception. And we don't want that to happen for you. And we don't, we'll do the search again. That's why we guarantee it. I mean, I don't really want to do another one again because we don't get the professional service fees. But more than that, it's about you. And it's not good for your credibility. You don't want that. It's not good for the stability and the movement of the organization.
You have a longtime city manager here. You're doing a lot of good things. You want to keep that momentum going. You don't want to take a step back.
I had a question, but you answered my question in your statement.
Thank you.
Councilmember Felshaw, Councilmember Turner, then Councilmember Samuel.
This is really a question for another day, and I don't expect you to go into it in any depth at all, but under additional charges, you have listed a half-day on-site post-hire team building workshop is offered for an expense, And so I'm assuming this is something you offer once the city manager is secured, to come in then and to spend time with that new city manager and that city council and to address team building and so forth.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So that would be, if you don't already do annual strategic planning type sessions and team building sessions, that, or if you want to do a special one with a new city manager, then we will work with you on that. And we have a staff and some people that are very good at doing that. And when I was a city manager, I used SGR for that type of a workshop. Not a team building, but it was a strategic planning. So we have a lot of expertise in that. And if that is something that you want to do, to cement that relationship and make sure that you're moving the city forward and the momentum picks up, you want to hit the ground running, we can work with you on that.
And as a city manager, and now with this company, you've seen you saw success, and you continue to see success with councils that take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes, sir. I think it's a good thing to do. I mean, for anybody, for a city manager coming in, they're having to establish those relationships with each one of you. And that's one of the first things that you do as a new city manager, and understand what each one of you want. And I'm sure that a city manager will do that individually, but it's also very good to get the whole group together, because you want to hear from the whole council. What are the things you want to do? But it's also a good way for you as a council to understand your city manager, the city manager to understand you as a group too. So I think it is worthwhile.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Turner.
You guys, on page 15, I noticed it said a 3-phase billing cycle. So can you kind of, it's basically go in depth on how the billing cycle will go with those 3 phases it's selected?
Yes, sir. So, so typically you will get billed the first amount when the position launches. You'll get billed a third in any direct costs at that time. A third of the professional fees and any direct costs that have been incurred up to that point. So the first billing is at the time when the position launches. The second billing is at the selection of semifinalists, and then the last billing is when the process is completed.
Yes, sir. On page 11, on the press release, it has "it's requested." So if it is requested, is that additional fee? Would that be a part of the overall fee?
No, sir. We will work with you on that, and we will also do. We can also work with you on a press release to identify your finalist. I know there was a question earlier about identifying finalists, and we are also the same way. We try to keep confidentiality of candidates as long as we can. We understand open records, but at the finalist stage, when you're getting ready for those interviews, I think, and especially for the sake of transparency, you want to also identify who you're looking at and highlight those candidates. And we can work with you. I'm sure you have a public information office here already, but we can draft something for them to look at and then to send to you prior to your finalist interviews. And then we can also do the same thing with a post-hire announcement.
Okay.
And that is included. There's no charge on that.
Okay, page 7, step 4. You have "no other firm offers this." Can you kind of go into a little bit more detail with that statement? No other firm offers it. What actually it entails on step 4, page 7.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think my pages are not aligning with your
ours?
page.
Okay.
So what is the paragraph?
Hold on. It's page 7, step 4. It's towards the end of the slide.
Oh, is it on my slides?
Yeah, it's in the packet that we got prior to.
Okay.
So since you don't have it, we'll skip. We can skip it. You can give it to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, page 7, step 4.
This is Baker.
He gave you the competitor?
So step 4, the search committee briefing. Well, the comprehensive progress report, I will, once the position opens, and I can't speak to what exactly the other firms do, but once the position opens, I will provide my point of contact, whoever that is, with a progress report. And so every week you will get a report on how many people have applied to date, how many are within Texas, how many are from out of state, and you'll get summary demographic information. So I can provide that to you. Now, I don't have the ability to look at demographic information when I'm looking at an individual candidate, but I can pull a report that summarizes it, and I will provide that to you once a week. And then, of course, at the end of the process, I'll provide all of that information again to you, the final summary, and tell you what, where we advertised, all of the applicants that we received, and so forth. But the facilitating the selection is then again, as I talked about earlier, where I will brief you on all of the candidates and how they best meet your criteria, and I will put them into 3 categories essentially: low probability, medium, high, and talk about any other things that might be that I can gather from my conversations with some of the top candidates. But I will help you then facilitate and help you select the 12 semifinalists to move forward in the process. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
That's pretty much right on. And on page 2, we talk about equal opportunity commitment. We talk about minority groups. Like, how are we going about that? And, how do you guys normally perform when it comes to minority group? Like, what are your steps? What do you kind of target? Do you belong to any organizations? How does that work?
So we do target, we will advertise in any other, we typically ICMA, TCMA, or TML websites. We'll also do the Local Government Hispanic Network, NFBBA, other places, ICMA. So we will do all of those, and again, I will provide you that demographic information. And then LinkedIn, we try to target and reach out as far as we can. It is a challenge, and especially for women. There's more women in the profession now, but at least the searches I've been doing, I haven't seen as the numbers that I would like to see, and with minorities as well. So that is always a struggle. We continually try to work at that. And again, if there's any other specific places that you would like us to target, we can also get you that information of what that cost would be and add that into the advertising plan.
Okay. Last question. Since 2019, just looking at your stats and your numbers, the largest city y'all worked with in Texas was Flower Mound, Texas, with a population of about 79,000. And y'all did Killeen early in 2019, but as of recent, the largest is 79,000. Can you kind of tell me, our population is roughly 116,000. Can you tell me how confident you are that you guys can take care of a city this big?
Well, yes. A lot of what you're looking for in a city manager is not much different than a Flower Mound or a Killeen. You have your own unique needs, and certainly when I am screening an applicant, I'm not going to bring you a candidate who's been a city manager in a 4,000 population city. I'm going to bring you someone who's managed bigger cities. There is a difference. I have worked in a large city, Wichita Falls. It's 110,000, and I've worked in city manager of a 40,000 population city. So a lot of the challenges are the same. Managing a large city is different than managing a very small city, but you have a wide range of candidates, I guess is what I'm saying. So our expertise in being able to work with medium cities to small cities, I think will translate well for larger cities such as Beaumont.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Samuel.
Well, my question was, thank you first for being here. Thank you for your presentation. But I did have that same concern. I only saw 2 cities in Texas above 100,000. That was Amarillo and Killeen. And I just wondered, were there other cities of a population over 100,000 that you've actually found city managers for?
Not that I know of. I've been with the company for a year though, so I can find out for you. I can get that information and I'll let Chris know.
Any other questions? Councilmember Getz.
Baker Tilly indicated that they were going to be, I believe, bringing 4 finalists for us to consider. When it comes down to the number of finalists or semifinalists, how many people does SGR anticipate bringing to council?
We recommend that you select 4 or 5, 4 to 5. And if you want 6, if you have 6 that you really like, that's fine. But generally around that number, we don't like to get lower than that, just because one, your selection is smaller, but sometimes you lose a candidate at the end, and we don't want that to happen to where then you don't have a good pool. So we recommend 5 is the number that we target, but 4 to 6 is what I recommend.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so very much for your presentation
Thank
today.
you. Thank
We
you, Mayor
appreciate
and
you
Council.
coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think it might be, I have a question as to how do we proceed from here? What's the next step in the process where we actually will be selecting one of these 2 firms?
I'm gonna refer to our city attorney. Will
Yeah.
we have to do it
Yeah, so
open?
it's an open session thing. So if there are 2 council people who have a consensus on a particular firm that they want to go with, they would email the manager that they want to put it on the agenda. And then if it fails, I guess it will go.
It's the other one.
You go with the other firm. But it's like any other agenda item. It would be placed on the regular agenda for discussion.
But there is an option to also put on an executive session to discuss those 2 firms as a council and then come out into an open can.
No, sir.
No.
It's not a private matter. I guess you want to put it that way. It's not something you're discussing with your attorney or any internal matter. So all discussions regarding the firm would be public.
So the options before you are to, not that you want to today, but you could discuss it today, and if there was an agreement amongst the 7 of you, I mean, it takes 4 or more. If there's an agreement today to move forward with 1 firm, staff would move forward and bring you a contract to approve. Other than that, the mayor can place it on the agenda by herself, and then you would vote on whatever firm she recommended, or, as the city attorney stated, 2 council members can say, we want you to put X, Y, and Z company on for a vote. So it can happen in any of those scenarios.
Thank you.
How do you want to proceed, Mayor? Do you want to make a recommendation yourself, or do you want council members to make a recommendation? Because I would like to move forward with this expeditiously.
Do everyone want to move forward with it at this point?
With me.
So, who would like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that
Not a
we.
motion. It's just
Well, no, it's not a
We
motion.
we could make a motion at this point, couldn't we?
Well,
voting
we're not
today.
voting.
So you're not voting today, so it's
We're
not
not
technically a
voting.
motion. So
It has to be posted.
yeah,
It
so at
has
this
to
point
be
you're
vote
making
on it.
you're making a recommendation or
To place it on a future agenda.
place it on a future agenda. So that's what you're doing. It's just to put it on the agenda.
I'd like to see it be placed on next week's agenda. If
Wh-
everybody else is
Which
of the same
firm?
accord. SGR.
I'd like to make a motion that we have Baker Tilly on there for next week.
I would like Baker Tilly on there for next week myself.
Okay, that's all we need, so we'll place it on there at the request of Councilmember Neal and the second of the Mayor Pro Tem. That's the way your rules lay it out, so be glad to do that and bring it back. We're not having a meeting next Tuesday. Some council members are going to be out of town, but we'll place it on for the 25th.
Okay, thank you. So we will move forward with our regular agenda. And at this time, Mr. City Manager, may I have the reading of item number 2, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and council, item number 2 is to consider approving a contract with Vortex companies for the repair of the 72-inch thread needle outfall storm line that goes through the Exxon Mobil Refinery. The storm line serves the South Park area, which does go through the refinery. It ultimately ends at the Natchez River Marsh. This 72-inch diameter line, due to age and poor soil conditions, requires rehabilitation to restore structural integrity and flow capacity. The contract is in the amount of $3,652,012.63. A total of 150 calendar days are allocated for the completion of this project. Funds were budgeted in the capital program. You have discussed this in executive session numerous times. The administration recommends approval.
You've heard the reading of item number 2. May I have a motion, please? Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I'm just reminding you, I need to abstain from this, please.
Councilmember Neal will be abstaining from this vote. Thank you for reminding us. All in favor of approving item number 2, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. May I have the reading of item number 3, please?
Item number 3 is to consider authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with Jefferson County for the proposed roadway and drainage rehabilitation of Spindletop Avenue. The estimated project cost is $530,000. Jefferson County has agreed to reimburse the city for 50% of the cost, not to exceed $265,000. The rehabilitation work will be bid upon acceptance of this interlocal agreement. Upon the conclusion of the project, the city would agree to provide documents for the relocation of the city limit line from the center line of Spindletop Avenue to the south right-of-way line of Spindletop Avenue, which means that it would all be inside the city limits of the city of Beaumont. I'd like to thank Bart Barkowiak and his staff, Commissioner Bo Alford, the Commissioners Court for approving this. It's good to see us working together on a project like this. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of item number 3. May I have a motion, please?
So move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Turner? Motion. Councilmember
Chris can have it.
Doria? Second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Councilmember Doria?
It says, county was gonna pay 50% of the cost, not to exceed $265,000. If they get into it and they come up with a change order, or it ends up costing more than $530,000, is the county still gonna pay 50%, or that falls all on the city?
It's going to fall on the city.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Turner?
Mr. Manager, how does it normally work with the reimbursement? Is it kind of after the project is done? It's not a specific timeline, it's just kind of when it's budgeted and it comes? Like, how does that normally work?
Did y'all have those discussions?
We'll bill them after
Okay.
the project, and then they'll pay it that time. Once we know the total cost, so we know what 50% is.
Yeah,
'Cause
this
it's
will
gonna
allow
go
an
out for
interlocal
bid.
agreement, so if you approve this today, we'll enter into an agreement with them. It's written, spelled out.
Right.
And then,
Then we
as
put it
Mr.
out for
Barkowiak,
bid.
yeah, that depends on what the bids are.
Right.
Under this scenario, they're only gonna pay up to $265,000. So If it goes beyond that, I mean, we'll properly bill them at that time. Could come in less,
Yes, sir.
you know, so you just have to
It's
wait.
even better.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approving item number 3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. May I have the reading of item number 4, please?
Item number 4 is to consider approving a contract with Marsh Waterproofing Incorporated for roof repairs at the Texas Energy Museum building. The city of Beaumont owns the Texas Energy Museum building. The current roof needs replacement. Marsh Waterproofing provided the low qualified bid with a price of $287,550, and also unit pricing for unseen additional damages that may be found during the performance of the contract. Funds were budgeted for this in the Capital Reserve Fund. I'd like to thank Keith Folsom and his staff for their work on this. We recommend approval.
Thank you. You heard the reading of item number 4. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we pass the resolution.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. Item number 5, please.
Item number 5 is to consider authorizing acceptance of maintenance and also a final payment to King Solution Services, LLC, for the Florida Avenue Sewer Line Emergency Repair. Back on November the 2nd of last year, the City Council awarded a contract to King Solution Services for this project. The initial cost to investigate the situation, you'll remember, was $9,800. King Solution Services has completed the emergency repairs necessary to correct the problems with the line. The final contract amount is $175,160. So today, acceptance of maintenance and the final payment in the amount of $175,160 is recommended. Funds are available in the water fund under the contract services line item. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of item number 5. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember
I
Durgan.
just wanted to say, want to thank them. They got this done really quickly because it was a big hole in the road right there on Florida Park before you go across the track. And I just think they got this work done, got it repaired in a timely manner. Appreciate that, and the folks in that neighborhood appreciate it also.
Thank you. Matt, I'm trying to think, where did I stop? I'm sorry. All in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. May I have the reading of item number 6, please?
Item number 6 is to consider authorizing the purchase of an enclosure and what is known as a base skid for the replacement generator at the Loeb Water Site. Back in July of 2021, the City Council approved the purchase of a replacement generator for Loeb from Mustang Cat of Houston in the amount of $464,990. In 2017, the backup generator located at Loeb was destroyed by flooding from Tropical Storm Harvey. And as the engineering design proceeded, for coinciding the electrical upgrades on the site, staff reviewed options for elevating various electrical components, including the generator, to prevent damage in the event of future flooding. As such, installation of the generator on a raised platform would not be possible within the existing building due to the height. The additional work will cost $130,000, and FEMA will pay for $117,900 of that amount, and then the Harvey Recovery Fund would pay the remainder, or $13,100. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of item number 6. May I have a motion, please?
So moved to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Felshaw, then Councilmember Neal.
Just curious, I'm assuming this building will only contain the generator and it's a metal building?
Currently, the generator that flooded out was in a metal building at ground level. What we'll do is we'll raise the generator up, and this is paying for an enclosure just of the generator.
Just the
So you can
generator.
order the generator without a shell if you're going to put it in a building, or you can order a generator with a shell, which this is this enclosure to protect it from the elements
So it-
if it's just put out on its own.
It
So,
comes with its own.
right.
Got it. Thank you.
That answered my question, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Turner.
Bart, if you don't mind, for the citizens that's watching who don't understand what load plan is, can you kind of explain to them?
Loeb is our groundwater or well water site north of Beaumont that provides water into the system. We have two sources, the surface water plant on Pine, it pulls water from the Natchez River, and then Loeb is the groundwater site north of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of approving item number 6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. May I have the reading of item number 7, please?
Number 7 is to consider approving the purchase of a flight simulator for use in pilot training at our Beaumont Municipal Airport. The flight simulator would be purchased from Redbird Flight Simulations Incorporated of Austin in the amount of $113,425. This unit would be used at the airport for flight training by flight schools and pilots. There would be an hourly rental rate of $70 per hour for the equipment. It is estimated that the equipment would pay for itself within 2.3 years, and that's according to our CFO. Funds are available in the airport fund. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of item number 7. May I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Councilmember Getz.
This is a item that is put out there to help pilots learn, or potential pilots learn how to fly a plane. And I'm going to support it because the funding is already out there in the airport fund. And as many of us recall, there was some gas and oil discovery that generated royalties, much of which had to be used out at the airport and could not be used anywhere other than the airport. So I'm going to support it for that reason. However, I am concerned because earlier today we rejected all the bids on the manhole project because they came in too high. This is, that's something that we really need to do is figure out how to prevent water intrusion in our manholes. This is something that's nice, but I don't know that it's essential. But having said that, the money is budgeted, so I support that.
Thank you. Mr.
Just
City
so,
Manager.
just so the rest of the council knows, when he talks about manholes over here, specifically, I think he's talking about sewer manholes. That's paid for out of the water fund by water and revenue bonds. This is a restricted fund, an airport fund, a total different set of money. No comparison whatsoever. You couldn't transfer money from one fund to another or use it for another purpose, so please know that.
So, Mr. City Manager, are you saying that the funds that are being used, they're coming out of the airport fund, can only be used for airport use, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just want to
Councilmember Dewey.
know, how much do you expect this to be used a lot?
Chris Moe's here. He's our airport manager, and he's been with us. We contracted with him at first after he retired from DuPont Orange, but he's done an incredible job of turning around the airport. I mean, it's so much better than it was 3+ years ago, and I give him the credit. He's here, and I think he could probably answer that question. He's a pilot himself. So, Mr. Moe, if you want to come forward.
And while he's coming up, if I can add that this only isn't a nice piece of equipment. This is equipment that will actually generate a positive cash flow for the airport once it's paid off in roughly 2.5 years. So it's going to drive more traffic out to the airport, which is going to also increase fuel sales. So not only will we make money off the simulator, we'll make money off of additional fuel sales.
So to answer your question, there are currently 3 flight schools. We've taken from 2019 to current day, we've increased the traffic count by over 85%. We had 1 flight school to start. We have 50 students right now. We need 173,000 new pilots between now and 2030. Where they're going to come from? So the simulator does twofold things. It does, one, it's a revenue generator. 2.3 years it'll start paying and generating revenue back, plus the fuel sales, but it's also a growth generator. What that does is you have to have 141 schools, which is an accredited school. They take and they have to have the flight simulator, which is an advanced training device. It's a requirement. From there, you can open it up to schools like Lamar, who has shown interest in creating a 2-year, 4-year degrees. What that does is opens it up to other kids that couldn't currently afford to take that training, get grants, Pell grants, things that will allow them to be able to go in that direction. So it not only a revenue generator, but a growth generator as well. And to answer your question, I've talked to all the flight schools. The 2 days or 2 flights per day that I put in there as an estimate was a very conservative estimate. They were planning on using that and talked with me about using it a lot more than what we put in as the generator.
So is that just the flight schools that can use it, or can they need like your pilots that have planes there come out there, I guess, to practice on the simulator?
Yeah, so anybody can use it. Of course, cost is $70 an hour. What that is less than half the cost of actually renting an airplane, but you can log the time as if you were flying an airplane. As you're getting your training going through the process, there's a certain amount of hours for your private, your instrument, your commercial that can then be used for the actual rating, but any of the other hours can still be logged in and used. So any pilot that wants to come in, anybody that wants to come in can come fly it, but pilots can use all that time for their currency, proficiency, whatever they want to use it for.
And the last question, the pilot training that goes on out there, is that just for small planes, or can they get training and go work for Southwest Airlines or something like that?
Absolutely. That's the whole process. Is you have to start in the small aircraft with a private pilot license through your instrument. Currently, you have to have 1,500 hours to get to the airlines. About 500 of those hours can actually be logged in. So it really propels them towards that career.
Councilmember Turner.
Thank you.
It kind of sparked my interest because I think that's a field that a lot of young people can be very successful in, financially, and it's just a good thing. And I think those fly-ins, you do a great thing for the community as well.
Well, thank you. And it's one of those things that most kids, as you know, the history of mine, my viewpoint has changed what was possible through somebody that brought me to it and proved to me that it was something possible I didn't think was possible for me. My job is to help the kids coming up see different avenues and different careers that they would never dream possible to start with, and hopefully change their direction.
And Mr. Moore, I understand that you have more traffic out on Highway 90 than we do at Jack Brooks.
Yes, ma'am. And currently, it's increased over 85% in the last 3 years. We had a 40% occupancy in 2019 of actual hangars. We have a 38 plane waiting list right now. We have 4 other entities that are trying to build private hangars and potentially a restaurant. So the growth is there, and this is just part of stimulating that growth.
Well, thank you so very much. Councilmember Getz.
And I believe today we approved ground leases for 2 more
Yes.
hangars to be built out there.
Yes,
I think you're doing a great job out there.
thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you just bought my chair. Okay. Well, thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
So all in favor of approving item number 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carry. May I have the reading of item number 8, please?
Item number 8 is to consider an appeal from the Historic Landmark Commission of a denied certificate of appropriateness to construct a fence at 794 3rd Street. The property owner, Terry Highsmith, requested permission to construct a fence, again for the property at 794 3rd Street, from the Historic Landmark Commission. The fence would be made of concrete blocks covered with stucco and painted white with decorative columns. The Landmark Commission is charged, according to the City Council's ordinances, the Landmark Commission is charged with reviewing requests for certificates of appropriateness for most exterior improvements. Regarding the design of fences within the historic district, the ordinance states concrete block fences are not permitted. The Landmark Commission considered Mr. Highsmith's request for a certificate of appropriateness at their meeting on December the 13th of last year. The commission voted 10-0 to deny the request. The applicant is appealing the Landmark Commission's denial of the certificate of appropriateness to the City Council, which that property owner has the right to do. So I believe Mr. Highsmith is here, and he'll have an opportunity to state his case to the City Council.
Thank you. Mr. Highsmith, you may come forward, please.
Pardon me. Put those hearing aids in so I could understand you. The property is located in Old Town Historic District, close to the McFadden Ward home. It's excuse me, I'm not used to this. It is a well, my problem is this. The city will, they will allow me to put up a wrought iron fence, which I really don't care for. The wooden fences that are approved, and I could get approved for that real easily, they just don't last. They're weak, they fall down, they rot, and they're really not attractive at all. Now, the block fences could last for no telling how long if you did it right, and hopefully my contractor would do that. My ideal is to have a block fence around the property and to have basically like a courtyard in the middle. There are several block fences in Beaumont, notably on Calder and Thomas, and one of them is just painted with scenery, with trees and little possums up in the trees, and it's painted green. But the other opportunity would be to use bricks to build the same fence. And I'm sure that it would look really nice. I just don't care for the ideal. But I went with the stucco ideal because the codes people told me that would be a possibility to get that passed. And my original idea was just to have the blocks. Now, the blocks have been used well, let me take that back. They were created, the center blocks, in the 1800s. And there's actually a block house, a house built out of blocks on McFadden. And I don't know why they don't want us to have those kind of fences. It's more of a wall fence, and I really would like to have that there. But if I can't get it, I'll go with something else. But I'm really trying to get that done. And if any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
A couple questions there.
Councilmember Neal?
How long have you owned this property?
I've owned that piece of property for about between 4 and 5 years. I actually own the property next door, and I've been there for 40 years. Now, the house is probably it was probably built in like 1905, and I've been working on the house for a while. I just want to restore the property. I don't have any intentions of living there. I don't have any intentions of fixing it up to sell. I just would like to see it preserved. And it could be a beautiful home.
It appears that the biggest issues that the Historic Landmark Commission has is that the fence just doesn't meet the neighborhood.
That's what now?
The fence is not going to meet the neighborhood. It's not going to match anything that's currently over there. And the Old Town area has done a real good job trying to maintain the looks of the neighborhood.
If you would allow me, I have a few pictures of the fences that are in my area that I would like to show you. And if I could pass them out, or I could just hold them up, whichever you prefer.
I pass them out.
Okay. And these are all within 1 or 2 blocks of my property that we're talking about here. This
Yeah.
already have this picture. This is the fence I would like to build.
Oh, we have it.
Yeah, that's just a plain block, but the other one was with stuff. Yeah, I think you have that picture in your.
I would like to tell you that I certainly agree with what you're saying, that this is a much,
That's the fence I would like to build. Yes, ma'am.
it's a prettier fence.
Ma'am,
It's a beautiful fence.
I think it is. And I think it would be there for many years. And
But
it
the
would
pro-
prove the property value. And it's much more expensive than putting up a wooden fence.
Well, longevity-wise, it is, but the problem is that,
I'm hard to hear now.
I'm sorry, the problem is that the Historic and Old Town Historic Society, it's not part of what has been allowed in the historic district.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the problem. It's not that it's not a nice fence, it's just that it is not consistent to what has been allowed in the historic district. And that's why it was denied. And they do a very, very good job of keeping the historic district historic. I love this fence, I'll take it outside of my house. I could use it. But unfortunately, sir, we have to go by the guidelines that have been set forth and that have been approved for the historic district. It's not that we disagree with it, but that's what's been set up.
I understand that. I was just hoping that maybe we could do it. Like I say, the area that within a few blocks around my house, those pictures is really what it looks like, and it hasn't been taken care of. It's really run down, and I could show you more things that are really, really bad over there. That you could just drive around and see it for yourself. It's almost it's really kind of sad, because what happens is most people that live in that area are just renting to start with, and they don't really care about the property. A large number of people don't even bother to take in their garbage cans. They'll sit out there week after week. They'll just take the trash from the house and put it in a can on the street. And I know that's against the city ordinance, but it's like that all the time. And the best way not to have any problems is just not to do anything. Just to let everything just get worse and worse and worse. And it's when you try to do something, it's when they say, no, you can't do that. And that's a real problem. And I don't know what else to say. I try to make things better, and people around me, like that, you've seen the pictures, that's just all over the place over there. And as long as you don't do anything, you're okay. I had a man who was homeless. He wanted to do a little work, and I said, well, you can scrape some paint off of his house I have next door. And he worked about 2 or 3 hours, just scraping paint. Well, a few days later, I got a letter from the city saying I had to stop working on that house. And he'd only been here a couple of hours for 1 day. So what do? You just quit, give up. You don't do anything. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. That's typical.
No, don't quit and don't give up, but I would tell you to go to the 3rd floor, code enforcement. Make sure that you have all of the rules before you get started.
I'm sorry. I can't understand you.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. I have the hearing aids and they're all the way up.
I could speak louder. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
I would just suggest to you, before you start, to go to code enforcement and make sure that you're complying with the codes that have already been set forth. But Councilmember Getz has a question for you.
Well, actually, my question, I think, is for Chris. I cannot fault the Landmark Commission in applying the rules as they are written, and I think that's what they're tasked with doing, and that's what they're doing here. However, I also acknowledge and see your point that there's a lot of wooden fences in the Old Town neighborhood that are dilapidated, falling down, and your proposed fence is much more aesthetically pleasing than a dilapidated, falling down, rotten wooden fence. So I get where you're coming from too. My question to you, Chris, is what can the council do, or would it even be advisable to perhaps consider a change in the historic overlay district as it relates to fences, because there are no rules anywhere else in the city relating to fences. But would it be possible for this body to change the rules as to concrete cinder fencing in the historical district?
So currently in the current guidelines, that it spells out that fences can be made of wood, like a typical privacy fence. They can be wrought iron, so maybe that you've seen around, and then they can be brick, so you can have brick wall. So there are variations of what is allowed already in the ordinance. To answer your question,
if there was an interest in seeing are there other options out there, certainly staff, what I would recommend is that staff take a look to see what other kind of fences are out there, because at the end of the day, the idea behind the guidelines that the Landmark Commission is trying to uphold is that what is built, those changes in the neighborhood, are in keeping with the architectural style. Now it allows for new architecture and things like that. So if it was the council's desire, staff could go and essentially survey to see, are there other cinder block? I'm not aware of any in the district. There certainly are in other parts of the city, but are there others in the city, or rather in the district? And again, we can make that recommendation, that discussion we could have first with the Landmark Commission, get their input, discussion, and then we could bring the item back to council. So short answer is we could, but that would be my recommendation for the process.
Well, then I'm going to make a motion to table this for a time to allow that to happen. And I'll say the reason why is because if you were to build, for instance, a brick fence, I've seen brick fences with ivy growing up them, and it's green and it's pretty. And same thing for cinder block fences. I've seen, so you really, once the ivy's on them, you really can't tell if it's cinder block or brick underneath. So from an aesthetic standpoint, it really makes no difference. If we do have the ability to reconsider having cinder block fencing, and the Landmark Commission is on board with that, again, I don't fault them for applying the rules as it stands. I think that's right, but maybe it needs to be looked at a little bit more. And so I make a motion that we table this.
I got a question there.
Well, we have a motion on the floor.
Well, I have a question about the motion, though. Since there's an applicant here, wouldn't he have to agree to having it tabled?
I don't think so. I think that we have the right to table any item that comes before us, and we can consider his appeal in the future after the Landmark Commission and Chris's office has done their due diligence.
So because it's an appeal, it's kind of special from any additional item. He would, if he wanted to say, no, I want you to up or down it today, I mean, he can consent to say he agrees to table it and he's not opposed to it, because there's a certain timelines that go along with the appeal procedure. Like if he decided you guys wanted to deny it, he does have some other options that he has available to him to pursue civilly.
I guess he could always go to court, but
Right. So he might not want to do that if we want to defer it because you haven't made a ruling on it. It kind of extends his timeline to do that. But that is something that he needs
so
to be aware of.
So if we do table it with his agreement,
Well, I just think he needs to be aware of it. Like they're not, if they table it today, that means that they'll come back and review it. So no final decision will be made. So if you wanted to, I guess, pursue other options, in the meantime, that's available to you. But what council is saying is they want to explore other options that may be beneficial to you.
right.
Well, I'm not in a big rush to start the job, so if it's gonna take a while for approval, that'll be great. And another thing I'd like to say is that most of the fences, almost all of the fences, are old cyclone fences. And they're everywhere, and most of them are pretty bad.
Well, I recognize you're not doing this to cut corners or to save money. You're actually going to be spending more money. So that's why I'm trying to see if I can get a second from council to table this and perhaps put this back into an additional research.
I second the request to table it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Councilmember Felshaw.
Chris, I'm assuming, looking at section 28, the ordinance states concrete block fences are not permitted.
Yes, sir.
There's where the problem is.
Yes, sir.
Because when we see a concrete block fence that's not treated, it is unsightly. And so that's what they're trying to avoid.
Yes, sir.
This gentleman is trying to put up a fence that's a concrete block with stucco,
Correct.
which now creates a different animal, actually. But if the ordinance read concrete block fences are not permitted unless covered with stucco, then of course that would address the issue. I think that originally they were just concerned about having a plain concrete center block fence put up, which is unsightly, nobody cares for. I guess they just wasn't envisioning that someone ever cover it with stucco and create what he's trying to do. Is that an assumption that's probably fair?
I think that's a fair assumption. Again, the guidelines are broad. We try to be as specific as we can so that when we get applications and requests, we can tell the applicant yes, no, or maybe it's got to go to the Landmark Commission. But there are situations that come up that maybe the ordinance doesn't
It
take
needs to be
into
updated,
account.
yeah.
So
So it needs to be addressed.
could be.
Okay, any other discussion?
Do we need to vote on the motion to table?
All in favor of approving item number 8, please signify by saying
Call for the motion for the table. The
All in
table.
favor of the motion to table? There's a motion and second to table.
okay. Mike made the motion.
He seconded.
He seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Okay, at the close of the city council meeting, the council will hold an executive session to consider matters related to contemplating or pending litigation in accordance with section 551-071 of the Government Code, claim of the park on Thomas Road, claim of Luke and Ashley Montalbano, claim of the estate of Carter Reese Osborne, Taylor Osborne, children of Taylor Osborne. Now's the time for public comment. If any citizen wish to speak, if you haven't already done so, please fill out the green slip to the back of the room, hand it to the clerk to the front of the room. She will call your name when it's time for you to speak. The green light will come on at the beginning of your 3 minutes. At the end of your 3 minutes, the red light will come on. Please make sure that you abide by the rules because you will be called out. If not, thank you.
I'm Charles Richard, 8350 Falcon, Beaumont, Texas.
Good day, council members. Hope you have a happy new year.
Sir, could you
Charles-
raise the mic up a little bit?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Can y'all hear me? Because I have it ringing in my ear and I can't hear when I speak.
Okay.
So you have to tell me if I'm speaking loud enough. Okay, I'm Charles Richard, 5780 Falcon. I recently came here a while back to ask about a house that I have that I've been having that I was using to keep my my furniture while I waited for the people to rebuild my house next door. I had moved some of the furniture in there, and Dad came and told me the building commission. I'm not sure that people were coming in and out of it, and I told them they weren't. That it was me. Then they told me it was abandoned. I told them, well, it's abandoned because here I am talking to you. It can't be abandoned if I'm talking to you. Then they stated that y'all gave me time to get on the
Work program?
road program, and a person across the street came and stole all my building material and everything. I called them, called the police. Police put me in jail because we had a confrontation. I stayed there for a month. The judge told me, do not go around that property. So I can't do anything to the property. I get a letter saying that they're going to tear down my property because I have not done what you asked, but I'm trying to. But it seems that all your paperwork is getting in the way. So I need for you distinguished people to sit down and put your mind together on how to actually enact y'all paperwork. Because the way y'all are acting it is actually taking things from me and my family. I know it's an accident because it's basically one person saying yes, then giving it to another person who starts all over again. And in the end, I get messed over because of the mere factor. No one's connecting. Now, I can't go on the property because the judge told me that I have to stay away from him, which I understand because being in the military for such a large amount of time, I have some strange anger issues. I can get to the point to where I'm angry for weeks, not minutes, weeks. It takes a long time to come back down. I took a lot of pills to be calm enough to talk to y'all here and stuff. So if I'm rambling, I apologize. But all I'm trying to do is get to court, settle this thing, sell the property, and get away from the person. I think I've lost my time there. But I do need y'all to make a decision on telling them to wait until I get out of court before they decide, and I will fix the house. I went and paid I'm paying the taxes and everything. I'm trying to do what you asked, but we're
Thank
bumping
you,
heads.
sir.
Mayor and Council, this item has already been before you, and the applicant would have been given notice about this to come speak publicly on the item. You've already voted to approve the demolition to the property. There are some options available to him through the legal route, but there's nothing that council can do today outside of undoing a previous action by council.
Thank you. Is there anyone he can speak with?
So I know our demolition coordinator has spoken with Mr. Richard, and again, as the city attorney mentioned, the council has already given the order. So
Yes, she said that she couldn't do anything. The council has spoken. You have to come back to talk to council and everything else. Like I said, is
Sir, what they're saying is that it was voted on previously to demo, correct? It was voted on previously to demo it. I don't know at what point it was done, because we get stacks of them. And so when it's done, we take a vote and we approve of it when it's presented to us. And perhaps you were not here.
Well, I've been trying. I have several people in my home that have underlying issues, and I try to stay away from.
Yeah, so this isn't a posted item, so we don't want to go back and forth.
Right, I can't discuss it with you. I can't go back and
I want to
forth.
ask the attorney a question. The only thing that, once an item has been to council, the only thing a person can do is file for an injunction in the courts. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
So, sir, that's what you would have to do, file for an injunction through the courts. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I can't just have y'all, because this is an ongoing situation because of, and like I said.
Sir, I'm sorry. Your time is up.
Okay, ma'am.
Tony Lagon, 4240 Inez, Beaumont, Texas.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wow. I don't know how to start this, so I guess I'll just read. Madeline Murray O'Hare, I think you guys know who she is, was successful in getting prayer removed from schools, as you know. And that was 59 years ago. It'll be 60 years in 2023. And so I decided to do some research to see what happened before that happened with schools, as far as shootings and everything. And I came up with the earliest recorded history was in 1700 when the Pontiac Rebellion, it's called, when a group of Indians, about 4 of them, shot a schoolmaster, and about 9 or 10 children were killed. And moving forward, and it was all through the 1800s, there were shootings, but it was adults. One was shot a schoolmaster because she refused him. One shot a schoolmaster because he beat his brother. And I went on and I said, wow, maybe we can do something in our country right now to try to put prayer back into school, because when the courts, the high courts held it at from 8 to 1. That's a big number, you know, for them to ban mandating prayer out of schools, you know, in schools. So what I've done, I've come up with a petition to try to get signatures from people, citizens like ourselves, to try to sign, to try to see if we can't get that turned around. That's all I came to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Addie Allen, 9695 Grove Street, Beaumont, Texas.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Attorney and City Manager. I stand before you this year, and you know, one of the things that I've approached Council about is the airport. Now, I did check number 7 on the agenda item, but I don't know if I was not.
I thought you came in after we did the consent agenda and the agenda.
So then I can just comment on it. All for education, all for City of Beaumont moving ahead. The airport, I've asked for before some questions because I live in that area. The airport's planes are moving like the Jetsons, you know, every morning, zoom, zoom, zoom. The stimulator, 113,000 that you approved, but nobody has said anything about the citizens that live there. Yes, we do have Jack Brooks. Now we have Beaumont Municipal Airport. There are no designated hours all through the day, the evening, the night. We hear planes. So I'm asking, just because I have a home there, it does affect your homes. And, you know, if you do some research, you'll find out. But number one is, can we have some consideration with noise control, flying patterns? Because there's a flying pattern out and in. These planes are flying everywhere. So can we be considered? I'm asking for me. None of my other neighbors are coming, but I'm here. And I do want to ask that. And number one, too, the other thing is with the planes, you know, $70 an hour is a lot for somebody that don't have a job that's going to school. Are you going to do grants for them? I'm going on the positive side now because my mind says negative. But what about grants for them? Is council going to assess that? And if a plane goes down, who is held harmless? If a plane hits my house, what is my insurance company gonna do? Nothing, nada. And you can look that up with things where planes have gone down in neighborhoods. So I want that to be considered with all of this, with the increase of planes. And I know my time's running out. I got a bullet hole in my house over the holidays. Can I tell you more? I'm asking you, Mayor, can you ask the council, can I tell you more?
I'm gonna extend you for 1 minute.
Okay, bullet hole in my house. So when we have firecrackers and holidays, can you do some better monitoring? I've got dirt coming through my toilet. So I don't know if that's part of the sewer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marquita Johnson, 544 Georgetown Street, Beaumont, Texas.
Hello, everyone. I was coming because as of January the 1st, God laid it upon my heart to start feeding the homeless due to the weather conditions. So since January the 1st, I usually go out every night around 11:30. And I'll prepare a hot meal like chicken noodle soup or chili or whatever. Sometimes people donate, but for the most part, I provide the meals and I go to the different areas on the north side, I go under the bridges and different areas like that and pass out hot meals and water. So I was trying to see, is there like something that I can, well, you guys can help me or lead me to in order to help with what I'm trying to do with the homeless people that are in Beaumont. It's a lot of them. They're sleeping under the bridge. They're sleeping on the outside. I go to some other place, and it's a whole bunch of them just outside. So I just pass out the meals to them, but I'm a single parent at the end of the day, but I still want to be a service to those people. And I go out late because usually I know about that time I'll be hungry. So a lot of the places, they provide meals for them during the daytime. And I think like some other places, they stop at like 4, and then like the Salvation Army, they have like a certain time that they stop at. So I go out later at night, and a lot of times these people haven't even ate yet. So basically trying to find some type of anything really that would help with what I'm trying to do to help the homeless.
Thank you. I'm going to refer you to Mr. Boone. After the meeting, get with Mr. Boone.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Steve Hoffman, 7045 Blarney Street, Beaumont, Texas.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I came to speak a little bit more about the Battleship Texas, my favorite topic these days. I went to the Schnitzel, the German restaurant over in Vater. They were quite open and had quite a few people coming out the door trying to get in. It's packed solid. And I started talking to some of the customers because they saw this shirt, which I wear to get people to talk about it, to get a feeling like take the temperature of the people to see what they say. I've yet to get except one bad remark from a gentleman who misunderstood that the city was going to pay for all the expenses to keep the ship up and maintain it. And I said, yes, the ships are expensive to maintain, but the city of Beaumont's not going to be on the hook for it. Among other things, it's going to be a contract deal. The city's not going to enter a contract that's going to cover the expenses. They have full control of that. So you have all four corners of the contract. And so what's more important is I've had people that at the restaurant have come down from Oklahoma to eat there. These are ex-customers and friends of ex-customers. And they were telling me, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this Battleship Texas come to Beaumont. I want to go over there. And then somebody else over there from Lake Charles had a whole family. And they all were excited about the idea of having the ship come to Beaumont. You know, and like I told you before, you know, the city's been taking an awful long time to complete this. I understand there's complications. But I'm also worried that these Baytown and Galveston are going to get on top of this and bump us out if we do make the decision. As far as blocking views on things, I mean, if you take a look out on the river from elevated position right about where the Riverfront Park is, those trees ever get knocked down in a storm or something, you're going to see the ugliest train depot that you ever seen in your life, and it's huge. Get on Google, take a view above, and look at what you're going to see. It's going to be like looking at Exxon Mobil or the old Magnolia. So I mean, to me, that's kind of that's an issue, but it's one that shouldn't carry a lot of weight. Plus, you don't want to have people thinking the council members all look out the window, because every time they hear something wrong, I mean, the storm that came through Beaumont, you're having people complain about energy, saying that energy caused all its outages. They didn't say that there's been lightning like crazy during the storm, possibly a tornado. So I mean, you know how they work when people get upset and they complain. So I just asked the council to get serious about the ship. I mean, I wear this all the time to get people to have an opinion, just to see what's going on. And I'm getting positive responses. And these are from the population and people that are not in our area. So it's not just somebody in Beaumont. So I think you've got people like ground attendants. And also you got to look at the numbers that y'all are getting. Looking at those numbers and seeing stuff I see in the press that looks kind of bogus sometimes, like it's been skewed. That some of those things you got to factor in what's going on. But what I used to do at the Gulf Station Energy, as I took data and converted it into information, which means you got to put it in context. So you have raw data, and you put it in context, and you understand what you got. And I think we're not looking at things like the COVID. If there's a COVID outbreak, and you go look at other ships, what kind of people are traveling on that ship, going to see it, that's going to be down, because you're not going to go on a ship in tight quarters if there's a COVID outbreak, and things like that. And that's not even been considered, as far as I can tell. And these are things that they help make the decision, because if we don't do this, and it's a good thing to have happen, we're going to look over our shoulder and going to say, it's like Jefferson, Texas. It used to be a great railroad town. Now it's just a nothing.
Thank
so
you.
we don't want to get there.
Thank you.
But I mean, it's we need to, when something falls in your lap, grab it and run with it. But you got to decide it's something that's worthwhile. But don't get confused by bad information.
Okay.
Or not qualified.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Demetrius Dorsey, 16, I think it's 6910 Pruitzman Road, Beaumont, Texas.
I came here before on this matter. We have a market, a God Grace African market on College Street. And due to the pandemic, we have a van that go get our products from Houston, because we so far, Houston won't come, but we need the gas from the transit station. But they gave us like a little time to get it, but since the pandemic, it's hard for us to buy a new van right now. So we still need to be able to get fuel from the transit station, from the bus station.
I'm sorry, you're saying the transit station?
Well, the bus station.
The bus station?
Yes, ma'am. Beaumont bus station. That's the only kind of gas we can use in that van that we have. It's like, what it is, butane gas, what the bus use to drive, to pick up the people.
Natural gas?
Natural
Yeah,
gas?
natural gas.
CNG. I encourage you to talk to Mr. Boone after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to move to council member comments, and I'm going to start with council member Neal.
No comment.
Councilmember Samuel.
No comment.
Councilmember Felshaw.
Good, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Turner.
Sharae Reed, congratulations. You're very deserving. You're appreciated, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Westbrook High School is undefeated in district and basketball, so if y'all want to support them, please support them. Beaumont United, they're ranked number 12 nationally, not just in the state, but in the world. So if you want to get out and support our local high schools, I encourage y'all to. They're excelling in sports, and we should get out and support them. Other than that, thank you.
Councilmember Getz.
Congratulations, Attorney Reed. Glad to have you aboard as city attorney. Mr. Hoffman, thank you for continuing to remind us about the Battleship Texas. I will note that in 2019, the USS Alabama outside of Mobil had over 400,000 visitors that year. And I think we could certainly exceed that if we got the USS Texas here in Beaumont, and that would do tremendous things to the downtown economy. I also want to announce that the homeless shelters that we've been following now for a couple of years are open, and they opened Sunday. They have 19 people in them right now. They have room for more, and the Salvation Army is feeding people over there in the evening. So people that stay there can go get their lunch during the day at some other place. Then the Salvation Army will serve dinner. So these as winter's here, we have cold weather. People have a place to stay, and here's the really great thing. It's free. It's no longer $10 a day after the first 3 days. It's free. So if you're homeless and you need a place to stay, there now is one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Duria.
I just want to congratulate Sharae. Congratulations. We're very proud of you. And like Councilman Turner said, look forward to working with you Also, I want to thank all the citizens that came and stayed and participated in this process. We're all a part of the same team, and working together, we can get some things done. And I also want to say, Spindletop Little League, it's a little league in my ward. They're having registration from January 15th to February 12th every Saturday. It's for boys and girls aged 4 to 16, and you can get in touch with them. It's located at 1565 Spindletop Road, which is across the street from the IBEW Hall. And you can contact them at 409-550-9458. That's it.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to Councilmember Samuel.
Yes, I'd also like to congratulate Attorney Reed. Please accept my apologies, but welcome aboard.
Ditto. Your turn.
I'll send her an email.
Okay. I would like to say, first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. Looking forward to a great 2022. We have a lot of things on the horizon for the city of Beaumont. And of course, sitting here, and if you're listening, most of you know, we have to choose a city manager. And so that is top of our agenda. But I would like to congratulate our new city attorney, Ms. Sharae Reed. And I have some girl power up here with me.
If you don't mind, before we adjourn, Mayor, I do want to thank everyone for your congratulatory texts, emails. I've received several calls extending prayer, and I'm just very grateful for the flowers and attention. I also want to thank my parents for coming to this very long council meeting and staying the entire time, and just for the faith that council has in me to do the job. Thank you.
And parents, congratulations to you also. Yes, and it is a long meeting. We haven't had a meeting for about 3 weeks now. Thank you. I also would like to say Beaumont had a very unique situation on this Friday. We had the MVP from the CFL, Mr. Willie Jefferson, in my office, if you saw the news. He was the MVP for the Canadian Football League, and he brought the Grey Cup to the United States. First time ever that the country allowed the cup to leave. That was sitting in my office on my desk, and when you can go back and see the success of a kid that you babysat and kept, and Willie is a twin, and so that was a guy. They were some twins too. So I had the privilege of keeping them as babies, and his mother and I worked together. But to see him to be that successful and from Beaumont, and as you've said, Councilmember Turner, we have so many great athletes from Beaumont, and looking at our parks in different situations, we're going to begin to capitalize on a lot of those things in the future. But it was great. Got to take pictures with him. Councilmember Turner and I were in the office with him, and had great conversation. And it was just great to have the cup there and to see the cup. And I'm sure many people around the city got an opportunity to see it. He was allowed to travel around with it, and he signed his new 2022 contract on my desk in my office. So that was a privilege. And I also want to say congratulations to Westbrook and also to Beaumont United. Again, we need to get out and support our local teams. And like you said, they're not just ranked in the state of Texas and the United States, they're nationally ranked. So get out and support the local schools. They've done great, and they're putting our name out there around the world. So we've had a long meeting. Thank you for staying, and we're going to recess into executive session. Thank you for coming.